Driving takes on a whole new meaning here in Texas as the regulars of the Champ Car Circus come to town. This is the land of ranches and rodeos, where the cowboy is king, and where to control just 1 horsepower, you have to be determined, tough and tenacious. The young guns of CART are fired up to show the old hands a thing or two, but they'll have to hold on tight to their unforgiving mounts. Accidents can happen, but you just have to dust yourself down and come out again fighting. Quick on the draw, quick on the track. The race is on for success in Houston. Hello and welcome to the 4th largest city in the United States as the Champ Cars come to Texas for the Texaco Grand Prix of Houston. I'm Ben Edwards, joined here in the commentary box as usual by Jeremy Shaw, but I have to tell you, things are not looking that good out of our window. It is pouring with rain at the moment. We've enjoyed sunshine, high humidity here over the last few days, but Jeremy, we've seen a complete change around today.
Yeah, the humidity has meant everybody's been really sticky all weekend. Well, now they're absolutely drenched all the way up around this circuit. The guys in the pit lane, we're looking down from our vantage point. I'll tell you, they are soaked from head to toe. And the fans too. Pretty good crowd on here for the first visit of the CART Series to Houston. And everybody is soaked to the skin.
There's a lot of water on track. Might take a few minutes before they start this race. Let's take a look back at who's on pole. Yesterday's top qualifier, Canadian Greg Moore. He had to sit and watch to see if anybody could beat his time at the end of the session, but Greg Moore held the fastest time in that second qualifying and took the 4th pole position of the year. In fact, Greg and Dario now tie for number of pole positions. And interestingly enough, joining Greg Moore on that front row, indeed, is Dario Franchitti, the 7th front row start for him in 9 starts. Back onto the second row of the grid, the man who's leading the battle for second place in the championship, Jimmy Vasser, and alongside him, Paul Tracy, with his best qualifying performance of the year so far.
Row 3 of the grid, Christian Fittipaldi. He's known as a rainmeister. He loves these kind of conditions and he likes street circuits. Alongside him, Brian Herter, the winner 2 weeks ago at Laguna Seca Raceway, his first championship car victory. On row 4 is Gilles Ferron, who is going well this weekend for Walker Racing. He needs a good result. He's had a disappointing recent few races. And Alex Zanardi, who already, of course, has clinched this year's FedEx Championship Series.
We move back to the 5th row of the grid. Bobby Rahal had provisional pole position on Friday, couldn't match that on Saturday. And alongside him, Andre Ribeiro with his best road course qualifying of the year in the Penske. The next row of the grid, in 11th place, Tony Kanaan from Brazil, looking to wrap up the Rookie of the Year title here today. And Adrian Fernandez, he starts 12th, still in the battle for second place in the championship.
Row 7 of the grid, Michael Andretti. His hometown sponsors for his major sponsor, Texaco Haviland. He'd wanted to do better than that, but row 7 it is. Alongside him, Max Papis, a revelation this weekend. He was 4th quickest on Friday in qualifying, slipped to 14th on the grid. Still a good effort. On row 8 of the grid is Mauricio Gugelmin. Again, Pac West boy, they've been struggling this year. And Alan Jr. in the second of the Penske Mercedes cars. He's been going pretty well recently.
The 9th row of the grid, Helio Castroneves, who led the race in Vancouver until he ran out of fuel. And a bit disappointing to see Richie Hearn down in 18th. He went really well on another street course in Detroit earlier this year. The next row of the grid, we see Scott Pruitt. Again, a bit disappointing for him. The 38-year-old really didn't get it together in qualifying, but a good performance from Alex Barron in the Eagle. In fact, his best qualifying performance of the year, to be 20th.
Row 11 of the grid. Now this is interesting. 2 drivers who love these kind of conditions. JJ Leto, a master in the rain, and Mark Blundell, no slouch either. His first win last year, of course, in the rain at Portland. On row 12 of the grid, Michel Jourdain Jr., the youngest driver in the field, driving for Peyton Coyne Racing. And the experienced Robbie Gordon has 2 wins to his name in the past, but no match this season, it seems, for Max Papis.
So we go back to the 13th row of the grid. Patrick Carpentier sees his teammate on pole position, but he just didn't get it together himself in qualifying. Art Meyer had various mechanical troubles as well. He qualifies 26th. And the last row of the grid, Dennis Vitolo, the journeyman racer, continuing in the Peyton Coyne car, and Vincenzo Sospiri making his second start in the Champ Car Series. He raced at Laguna Seca, but he's had all sorts of mechanical woes.
Yeah, he missed the final qualifying session yesterday, Ben. They had a major engine problem on the Eagle Toyota, so he sat out that final session, but he's certainly struggling to get to grips with the championship cars.
There's the scene in the grandstand, and in fact the rain has eased off now. I do believe it's actually stopped raining for the moment. The few umbrellas still around. Those poor people up there in the stand, it was raining so hard just a few moments ago. They almost got washed away, but thankfully it has eased off for the moment, and let's hope that we can get this race underway. Taking a look at the points battle, of course, the championship is all wrapped up for Alex Zanardi, but behind him there's a great battle going on for second position.
There is indeed. Look at that list of drivers there. Vassar, Fernandez, Franchitti, Moore, all of them within one win of each other of second place in the points. And again, Scott Pruitt also in contention. Herter, of course, a winner last time out. Tony Kanaan, the rookie driver, is the best placed of the Brazilians this year. That's a very good effort by the Tasman team. But there's so much to play for, Ben. We've got 3 races to go, and we've got a lot of money at stake for second, third, fourth and fifth in the standings.
Well, Zanardi might have wrapped up the championship, but here this weekend he's had his troubles. He came back fresh from testing the Williams Grand Prix car this week, did a good job in that, came back here to race in Houston, but he's had his troubles with the down change, the gear change. He's had 2 accidents already this weekend. The first accident took place in Friday qualifying. Couldn't get changed down to 4th gear, lost control of the car, just understeered straight off into the tyre barrier, and although it looked as though it had hurt his right hand, in fact he was okay. Then much the same thing on Saturday into turn 1.
Yeah, again a problem downshifting there, and it's funny, it's a problem that has afflicted several of the Reynard cars this season, and they thought that they had isolated the problem to that one particular gearbox on that car. Zanardi has had a problem on 2 or 3 other occasions this year. They changed the complete gearbox on that car from the backer, but again he had the same problem there in turn 1.
So Alex Zanardi has been in the wall literally a couple of times already this weekend. He'll start in 8th place. The rain has eased off for the moment, so hopefully they'll be getting ready to start the Texaco Grand Prix of Houston. Stay with us. The scene in the pit lane as the rain has abated here in Houston, but it's still very wet on circuit, and we're hearing that it may be around half an hour before they're ready to get the race underway. So a bit of a delay to the start of it today. Let's take a look at the track map. A 1.5 mile circuit, Jeremy, a brand new track.
Yes, and a pretty interesting circuit. All the corners are pretty much of a muchness, I have to say. They're all taken in 2nd gear, except for turn 8, which is 3rd gear, and all between 50 and 60 miles an hour. But the good news is there are several clear overtaking opportunities. Turn 1 is one of those, and particularly turn 5, the end of that long back straight on Austin Street. The cars reach close to 180 miles an hour down there, and at the end of it, a tight left-hand turn taken around 55 miles an hour. So a big braking area there, and certainly an opportunity to get alongside somebody else.
Now we've got a chance to take a look at the track in the dry, courtesy of Adrian Fernandez. Let's ride on board with him.
Okay, this is approaching the main straight in front of the pits. We go up to 4th, 5th gear, down to 2nd. Here the track is very, very bumpy. As you can see, there's a lot of bumps, hard to put the power down, a lot of bumps on the braking. Here on the exit of this corner, you have to try to put the power as soon as possible, then into 3rd, then 2nd. Try to carry a lot of speed here and concentrate and try to put the power as soon as you can. Then this corner is very important. 2nd gear, you try to put the power as soon as you can because it's very, very important. It's the longest straight. And you reach close to 185 to 190 miles per hour. 6th gear, down to 2nd. Here you have to carry a lot of speed into the corner. The rear of the car gets light, as you can see here. The rear wants to skid from you. It's hard to put the power down. Into 3rd gear, 2nd gear into this corner. The right front locks. It's very difficult to get the power down through here. This part is very, very bumpy. Then down to 2nd again, trying to keep the momentum and the speed as high as you can to try to put a good time. Into the main straight again, in front of the pits, and try to be as smooth as possible to try to close a good lap.
So that's how Adrian Fernandez drives this 1.5 mile track. That qualified him in 12th position for the race.
Yeah, and I think Adrian there was making a point that they've done a very, very good job with this track. They've spent a lot of money on the barrier system here. It's the cement walls are a little higher than usual, and the fencing around the top of it is very, very strong and very impressive indeed, modelled on the Surfers Paradise track in Australia. But the organisers here, for a first time particularly, have done an extremely good job.
Yeah, there's not a lot they can do about the weather. Look at that. That's how much water that's lying on the surface of this track. New surface pretty much all the way around, 1 or 2 bits of concrete and cement. We're just looking here at some of the new venue winners. Of course, this is a brand new venue on the calendar, and since 1990 you can see that Alan Sir Jr. and Bobby Rahal have both won a couple of races on new tracks. They seem to go well on uncharted territory. Most recent winner on a new track, Dario Franchitti, because the track at Vancouver, of course, had been completely changed when they arrived there this year.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting to me. The last 8 races have all on new venues have all been won by different drivers. I think that's pretty impressive. But there's a lot of new winners on this circuit, and we were looking down the stats this morning, and 16 of the 28 drivers in this field have won championship car races. That to me is quite remarkable.
Yeah, I think that's phenomenal, and of course there's a couple of other drivers there capable of winning as well. It's a highly competitive series, there's no doubt, and let's just hope that the track conditions are going to be good enough for them to be out there on circuit very soon now. So the conditions pretty much the same, and the good thing is that at least we haven't got any heavy rain at the moment. While we've got a little bit of a delay at the moment here in Houston, it does give us a chance to catch up with some of the other motorsport we've been following on Eurosport this evening. So what we're going to do is take the opportunity to catch up with the NASCAR taking place in another part of the United States, and that will keep you up to date with what's happening there, while conditions here at Houston hopefully get a little better. You saw the conditions being attended to with the brushes and brooms, but we will come back here at Houston as soon as possible. As soon as we see some action out there on circuit, we will be back to bring you the start of the race and to bring you live coverage of what is the round 17 of the FedEx Championship Series.
And look at those marshals there, that standing water. It's 2 or 3 inches deep on several parts of this racetrack.
So we'll leave you for the moment to NASCAR. Do join us again a little bit later on. The last couple of cars that will be lining up on the grid come out of the pit lane. Then there is Vincenzo Sospiri. He is last on the grid. All the cars are now out behind the pace cars. Greg Moore leads them round, of course, starting from pole position. Dario Franchitti right behind. Race analysis is a 1.5 mile temporary street course. 100 laps in theory, but not particularly likely in practice.
Yeah, that's true. It's actually 99.5 laps, because they will in actual fact start the race on that long Austin Street straight, and that is the longest straight on this circuit. That's where they will start the race. They will then do 99.5 laps after that.
Yes, same sort of plan as Mid-Ohio, where they start on a straight where there's a bit more room, and it means that the run into the first corner is hopefully a little bit safer, and then of course the finish line is actually opposite the pits. So the checkered flag will come out at the finish line opposite the pits, but the start signal will be given on that back stretch. There are the cars then. You can see how much water is not too bad now, not too much standing water on track.
No, and it's pretty hot here as well, pretty sticky, so I think that the track might dry out pretty quickly. I would say probably 10, 12, 15 laps we'll see these guys coming in for slick tyres.
Yeah, so all of them will be starting on the rain tyres, the Firestone rain tyre, the Goodyear rain tyre, and then they've got to carefully choose the right time to come in and put the slicks on if it gets dry enough.
Strategy is going to be absolutely key to this race. You just mentioned the fact we wonder whether we're going to get 100 laps in. That's because we have a 2-hour window to finish this race off. That's all the rules allow on street circuits. And it's a question of whether we'll need 1 pit stop or 2, but if they're going to have to make a pit stop pretty early on for different tyres, that'll probably mean 2-stop strategy.
In the pits, Michael Andretti's just gone in the pits. He's reporting a problem with that very heavy steering. There's a problem with the steering on his car. That's why Michael has come into the pits. We just heard the news on the pits radio. And Michael, let's see if we can hear on that pit radio now what's going on down there. Well, they're talking to each other a little bit. They're trying to spray it with WD-40 to loosen it up a little bit. There you can see they're just attacking it now. But for some reason, the steering has gone very, very heavy on that car. And Michael, who was
Michael, make sure it's okay.
due to start in 13th. Let's see whether this is going to have the desired result or not. Doesn't look particularly happy still.
Steering column joint. It's the joint in the steering column for sure. Go, go.
Well, there was Michael. You could hear him saying it was a joint in the steering column. He reckons it's actually the column running down from behind the steering wheel down to the steering rack, which is causing the problem. Maybe it's got water in there, but that could be perhaps part of the reason, but a strange thing to happen.
Yeah, very strange, and certainly he has struggled this weekend with that car, and we hope he has a better race.
So the cars going past the start stand on that backstretch. One finger being shown now, just the one lap until we get the start of this race underway. The spray will be a fairly major problem, and we're hearing that in fact they've got to start in single file. Now that sounds like a good decision.
Yeah, there is a precedent. So I think they did that at Portland last year, or they've certainly done that before, and that is a very good call by the officials here. It is of course a rolling start, and they will be in single file formation. There is Michael Andretti trying to catch up the tail end of the field, and he's going to have his work cut out to resume his position on the grid, which is 13th, so just about halfway up the field. He's got some work to do to catch up there.
Well, yes, I should imagine he's going to have to start from the back now anyway, isn't he? He's not really going to be able to get a chance to move up into his position. He'll have to start at the back of the field, and that means he's just lost himself 15 places on the grid due to that heavy steering. So let's hope that that's not a problem that's going to cost him a chance of doing well in this race. He'll go well in the wet, but he's a long, long way back. Now then, the car's coming past us. This is where the finish line will be. This is past the pit lane here, but this is not where the start of the race will be. That's in about half a lap's time. Moore leads, Franchitti around, Jimmy Vasser it is in third, remember. Paul Tracy in fourth, Fittipaldi. Watch out for Christian Fittipaldi. There he is in your picture. He is the rainmaster, no doubt about that. Meanwhile, we hear that Michael Andretti is heading back into pit lane. It doesn't look as though they've solved that problem. He is indeed back into the pits. Oh dear, what does he need to do, this man, to have a bit of luck? We are getting ready for the green flag. Single file start has been called. They have to follow one another. Heads, they're not getting alongside each other. They come up towards the starting gantry as they come along this long straight, and they all have to try and behave themselves. Greg Moore controls the pace as Christian Fittipaldi does move out of line a little bit, but it looks as though they've got away cleanly. Now then, Dario Franchitti's going for it down the inside. Franchitti goes for the move into the lead and takes the lead. Tracy's up into third. Vasser's, oh, there's a spinner, Gilda Ferran. Well, no surprise there. He hits Brian Herter. Now, has Brian kept it running? Spinners behind. Oh, and there's a replay of what happened, I think, unless he's done it again. Gilles done it again.
He has done it again. He did it the first two corners he spun the car, and poor old Herter there, he was absolutely blameless in that one. And there is the two Team Cruel green cars side by side, but there is already a full course caution.
Yes, full course yellow has been called already. Franchitti leads. Tracy has moved up into second place. Meanwhile, Greg Moore, the pole sitter, back down to third. Aggressive, hard racing from both Team Green drivers at the start there, but Gilda Ferran spinning on the first two corners. Now, of course, we've seen in the past a difference in performance between Goodyear wets and Firestone wets. Remember, Gilda Ferran is on the Goodyear wet. I'm not saying anything yet. We don't know if that's part of it. Generally, they've been pretty even in the most recent wet races in terms of performance. There's Castro Neves coming in with a very deranged right front suspension. He was involved somewhere. And there's Brian Herter still out on track. I don't know if that car's damaged, actually. He may have got away with it, but he got squeezed into the wall when Gilda Ferran had his spin. And of course, he then stalled the engine. But I think he thinks that the car's okay, and he just wants to get back into the fray again.
Yeah, the marshals are pushing the CART safety team, trying to get that car bump started, and Herder drops the clutch. Here we go. But here is a replay of the start, and you can see Fittipaldi over to the right-hand side of the track, and here comes Dario Franchitti down the inside. A very nice move indeed.
Yeah, aggressive piece of overtaking, but Moore gave him the room. Franchitti went past. Meanwhile, Tracy had got past Vasser just behind. Christian on the inside. Watch De Ferran. He loses it there as he gets on the power. Back end swings round. The camera just starting to turn. And this is the on-board view. There's Christian Fittipaldi just ahead of you. Watch for the car starting to spin now. There he goes. He tries to keep it going, but then he just squeezes Herter out. Now watch here. Watch here. Oh, we didn't quite stay with it, because in fact he ended up spinning on the very next corner as well. And there, just a replay of another spinner at the back. That was Dennis Vitolo.
Yes, Dennis spins again. I don't think he actually came. I didn't see him come past. He's actually the only car that I haven't seen come past. I think we've seen 27 cars, and Dennis is now underway again, so he will be able to rejoin at the back of the pack. So looks like just about everybody got away with that one. I think Castro Neves, I think it was, came into the pits, but just about everybody else is out on the racetrack. Zanardi gained a few places as a result of all that. He's moved up to 6th place. He started in 8th. There are the two Team Green drivers, though. Franchitti with that excellent pass of Greg Moore onto the fall into the first corner, and then Tracy also being pretty aggressive. This is the best we've seen from Tracy so far this year. He actually popped up into pole position at one time during qualifying yesterday, then just got displaced by Franchitti, by Greg Moore and by Jimmy Vasser to start 4th. But Tracy in excellent form here, no doubt about that.
Now, Michael Andretti still having those problems. You can see him at the top of the picture. He can't turn the steering wheel to the right properly. There's some sort of seizure in the steering system, and he just cannot find a way of making this car steer. So you don't really want to be out on track when you can't steer it. I don't think he's terribly keen to go back out, but they're sending him back out. They've changed the tyres. I don't know if they did anything else there to try and alleviate the problem. Here he comes down the pit lane. It is quite a convoluted pit exit here in Houston. You'll watch it perhaps now if we stay on board with Michael. They can't turn left here, which is where turn 1 is. So they actually go past turn 1 and they go through this little sequence here. Bend round to the left, bend round to the right, then round to the left again. He's still not on the track yet. He's got another little turn to do here, and then he rejoins the track just after turn 2. So it's a very convoluted pit lane exit. It's the only really downside that drivers have talked about this weekend on this new track.
Yeah, and certainly the feedback on the whole has been very, very positive indeed. They've spent a lot of money on developing this racetrack in the downtown city streets here of Houston, and by and large that has been extremely well received by the drivers. They're very, very impressed indeed.
Yeah, back up on the main straight here. This is where the start of the race took place, and down into the corner where we saw all the problems. Of course, in these conditions, no great surprise there, as it caught quite a few of the drivers out. Turn number 5, as they went through there, that was where the problem was, and then back out through the rest of the lap, coming down towards turn number 7, another pretty much 90-degree right-hander, although one of the slower corners. Now the restarts will take place from the finish line, from opposite the pits. So we're getting ready to go green here as they come alongside the pits, past our commentary position. Dario Franchitti gets it very sideways as he gets on the power and down into turn 1. The race restarts. Christian Fittipaldi has a little look down the inside of Moore, but Greg Moore's had enough of people going past him, and he defends the place sensibly and securely. It's Franchitti from Tracy, from Greg Moore, from Fittipaldi, then Jimmy Vasser, and then and Moore spun it. Oh no, Moore has lost it, and everybody tries to, and he's hit Fittipaldi, and the two of them go out now.
That's a crash piece of driving by Greg Moore. He made one mistake by spinning it, and then he tries to spin it back again into the road, and in doing so took out Christian Fittipaldi. In that situation, all you can do is stand on the brakes. You're in the middle of the racetrack. There's no point in endangering everybody else. You need to stay as clear as you can, and he clearly didn't do that.
No, so they all back off again. I think Tracy and Franchitti having a little chat together on the main straight there. They can't quite believe this. They try to keep going, and well, the yellows keep coming out. And Zanardi's just picking up places. He's now moved up to 4th, thanks to 2 more cars in front of him going off. Moore and Fittipaldi, and it's such a disappointment for Christian because he's one of the top drivers in the wet conditions.
And we've heard a call from Dario Franchitti on the radio. He said the track is like an ice rink, and it clearly is. There's Greg. Well, look, he just lets the car slide backwards. I mean, that's ridiculous. He was on the brakes, he lets the brakes go off. There was room for the other guys to go around the front of him, and he just let the brakes off and slid straight back into the road, into the way of Christian Fittipaldi. I think that's I'm not very impressed by that move there. I think he should have been on the brakes at that point.
He may have been just trying to roll the car backwards out of the main flow of cars. He may not have realised that Christian had to go to the inside, but I agree, normally it's much better to hit the brakes, and Greg didn't do that on this occasion, and he's out of the race. Welcome back to Eurosport's coverage, live here from Houston in Texas, the first ever race around the street circuit in Houston, and rain, and the first wet race of the year, and it's been causing all sorts of problems and tribulations out there.
Yeah, and it's very, very, very slippery indeed. This is a new race surface, of course, a new asphalt surface, and boy, is it slippery.
Yes, and now we await another restart to get this race underway. The onboard view with Alex Zanardi. He's completed 5 laps. He's up into 4th place as a result of all sorts of incident in the opening laps here at Houston. A delayed start because of the rain. Finally, we get it underway. Then a couple of spins for Gilles de Ferran, and the first yellow flag with Brian Herter into the wall. Michael Andretti has had all sorts of problems. Let's hear from him in the pit lane.
Back at Houston, and Michael Andretti has decided to call it a day. I know you're in all your might. You were trying to turn that steering wheel. Any idea at all what's wrong?
I don't know, there's something jamming up in the steering rack. It's just so heartbreaking. I feel bad for everybody here at Texaco. I mean, both cars out in the first lap. It's really disappointing because I think, you know, we could have done pretty well today. So it's just a heartbreaking day for all of us here at Newman Haas and Texaco, and we're sorry.
Tough break for Michael Andretti. Thanks.
And his teammate, unfortunately, also out of the competition. Christian, were you totally a victim in this situation?
Well, I guess so. like Moore just spun in my front, and there was nowhere to go. Like you have a fraction of a second to make a decision, and in the beginning of his spin, he was going one way, then he ended up the other way. I actually thought I was going to go by him, but he nailed me, and that was it.
How badly does it hurt? Because I know you like to drive in the wet, and you've proved that you're a master of that.
Well, a lot. Like the car was very good in the dry this weekend. We were starting up there. I had passed Vassar already. Like everything was going under control, and as you said, like I really like driving in the wet, so I thought I had a very good shot at it today. Like, so it's a shame, and what can I say? Maybe it's going together with the year I had, like, which has been very, very difficult for me. It hasn't been easy.
Thank you, Christian.
Thanks.
So disappointing, isn't it? And for both cars, with Texaco as well, of course, their main sponsor, and this sponsored by them as well. A really disappointing day for Newman Haas.
That's right, and Christian Fittipaldi, the most experienced driver in the championship cars now without a victory. He has had 58 races in his career so far, and I agree with him. I think he had a fabulous opportunity to win this afternoon, particularly with these conditions as they are right now, and a tremendous disappointment for Christian Fittipaldi. I really feel for him. I thought he had a great chance this weekend.
Yes, absolutely. Well, he's not in it anymore. Franchitti is race leader behind pace car, of course, at the moment. Tracy second, Vassar third, Zanardi fourth, and then Bobby Rahal. You're right on board with Bobby. He's moved up to fifth place. Remember, he was fastest here in the dry conditions on Friday. Didn't manage to get himself a really good lap in on the Saturday, and indeed there's Greg Moore walking back. I did wonder whether they were going to get that car returned to the pits, but clearly too much damage done to the Canadian's car. So the pole sitter, who earned that pole position in an exciting qualifying session yesterday, he's out of the race, and I think that makes it about 5 non-finishes in a row, doesn't it, Jeremy, for Greg Moore? He's had a really rough run of things just recently.
It is, you're right, 5 DNFs in a row, and you know, it's the same as last year, really. He was a real championship contender through the first part of the season, and then it just all falls apart for a variety of different reasons, and it's the same this year as well.
Well, when the bad luck seems to come along, it really hits you hard, doesn't it? And Michael Andretti is the one who's had so much bad luck this year. Let's take a look back at one of the incidents that's happened this year where Michael was unlucky, but then again, he was very lucky. The overhead view on the backstretch, also Nardi and JJ Letter. There's been contact there. Front wing goes flying off JJ Letter's car. I don't know what was going on. Oh, at the bottom of the picture, the black goes Michael Andretti. Michael Andretti's gone off. A huge accident into the sand. Looking back over some of the incidents of the year, and as I say, Michael unlucky but very, very lucky not to get hurt in that accident.
Yeah, a massive crash there, cartwheeled several times, and it once again shows the strength of these championship cars, the Swift chassis in that instance, and it was a real catalogue of disasters led up to that incident when Zanardi clipped Leto. The front wing from Leto's car went up in the air and actually landed, if you could believe this, in the front suspension of PJ Jones's car, and as Andretti pulled out to pass Patrick Carpentier, PJ was wandering around effectively in the middle of the road, unable to get out of the way, and he just clipped the rear wheel of Andretti's car and sent it flipping all the way down there into that gravel trap. Huge crash.
On board there with Bobby Rahal as he follows the others around in 5th place at the moment. A brilliant performance on Friday it was to take provisional pole, and in fact that's the first time in 5 years that he's even taken provisional pole. He was looking for his first pole in 6 years. It didn't happen in the end, but I tell you what, some of those youngsters were somewhat surprised at his pace in Friday qualifying.
Surprised and impressed, and you know, the one thing Bobby Rahal said at the beginning of this season, Rahal's last ride, was that he wanted to be competitive when he hang up his helmet, and boy, he has been very competitive this season.
He has, hasn't he? He's really had some good results. His best qualifying performance, a 2nd position, and his best result of the year, 3rd place Mid-Ohio, his home track, if you like. He had that tremendous 3rd place finish there, and he really has proved that he's still worthy of the drive. Of course, next year, it's going to be the Italian, Max Papis, who's going to be driving the Miller Lite car. That's going to be interesting to see, and Bobby was talking about how quickly Max had gone on Friday. Max was indeed 4th fastest on Friday. I think Bobby was very pleased about that, to know that his charge for next year was on the pace on a street track, a sort of track that Bobby likes so well.
Yeah, and there's that turn 7 and turn 8 section of the track there. You can see that sweeper there, the right-hand turn, is that's the fastest corner on the track. They take that in 3rd gear, and then heavy braking again for the first of those 2 left-handers there, turn 9 and turn 10, and here we are coming up for the restart, are we? No, still yellow flags.
Let's go down to hear from Greg Moore with Gary Gerald in the pits.
Is this a case of driver error?
Yeah, just one of those racing things. You know, we went through there, and real unfortunate that it happened. I think we could have had a great race today if it had been dry, but you know, just one of those things where we thought we had a good shot of winning today, and all of a sudden the weather changes on us, and it's disappointing. But you know, I feel bad that you know, I feel bad for everyone in this team. You know, we need something to kind of uplift our spirits a little bit. You know, obviously this isn't the way to do it, but pole position was nice. We'll just have to go to Surfers and try and win there.
Thank you, Greg.
All right.
Well, interesting. Greg Moore, of course, very sadly out of this race, the pole sitter. No chance now, but he's just got to look forward to the next race in Surfers Paradise. Dario Franchitti leads them around. In fact, he's setting the pace on this. We're ready for green, and they've changed procedure slightly. They've got rid of the pace car, and they've allowed the leader of the race to set the pace on the last yellow flag lap before going green.
He's setting a pretty quick pace, but look at what's interesting is how much this track is drying out. There's virtually no spray at all from these cars, even on the concrete there through turn 7 and turn 8, and well, it's not going to be too long before these guys are going to need slick tyres. Who is going to be the first to take the plunge, Ben?
Yeah, interesting to see. Here we go then. The green flag is being waved as they come out of that final corner. And in fact, Dario's managed to open up a bit of an advantage. Tracy stayed with him, but Vassar got a little bit left behind on that pace lap. As you said, Jeremy, I think Dario was going quite hard. Good idea, though, because it has spaced the cars out a little bit. And that should hopefully help a touch. Look how slippery it is, though. Those two cars slithering around all over the place. Vassar and Zanardi chasing them. Two team formations here. Franchitti leads. Look at the back end of the car. It's all over the place as he tries to put the power down. Remember, these are turbocharged engines. They don't have a lot of boost. Oh, Ribeiro spun it. Andre Ribeiro's the next one to add to the list. Rejoin carefully, Andre. Don't stall the engine. Please don't stall the engine. We won't. I think he might have stalled the engine. I think he has, as he flicks the visor open. And he has, yes. So that's another car to add to the
right
list.
by the pit exit there in turn 2, and here are the two Ganassi cars, and there is Bobby Rahal there, and behind him is Tony Kanaan coming through there, and here is Ribeiro, gets on the power, slides the back end around, and around she goes.
Well, we're hearing it's only going to be a local yellow for the moment. They may be able to get that car out of the way without bringing the safety cars out. Let's hope so. Had enough of this behind the pace car. Ribeiro anxiously looking for someone to come and push him out of the way. Meanwhile, Franchitti leads. Now, I wonder if Zanardi had got past Vassar. Let's have a look. Yes, he has. Zanardi has got past Jimmy Vassar now. So, Alex Zanardi, the champion, has moved up into third position now. Likes the wet conditions, of course, coming from European racing. Got plenty of experience in these sort of conditions. And he's now third. Vassar fourth. Rahal is still in fifth place. They go past the stricken car there of Andre Ribeiro. Behind Bobby Rahal in fifth is Tony Kanaan in sixth, the young Brazilian who was telling us how much he was looking forward to racing in the wet conditions. And behind him, Adrian Fernandez. Max Papis going well. He's in 8th. De Ferran is in 9th. And Richie Hearn is in 10th position. Apparently, Zanardi has a problem with his radio communication back to the pits as well. There's some sort of trouble with that. In fact, that's not the first one we've heard of. Michel Jourdain also has lost radio contact. And the rain obviously is getting into the works a bit today.
Yeah, it's messed things up rather odd. Here they are, though, through this double apex right-hander there at the end of the back straight. And it's turn 5 and turn 6, and heavy braking again now for turn 7. And you'll see the change of surface here. There we go, onto the concrete, and short shifts here into third gear through turn 8.
Sliding around a lot there, Alex Zanardi, just beginning to get away a touch from Jimmy Vassar, not by very much, but just a length or two as the leaders come down, start-finish straight. Dario Franchitti, race leader by 3 seconds at the end of lap number 11. Then there's an 8-second, well, another 5 seconds back to Zanardi, Vassar, then Bobby Rahal, pretty close in, and there we are on board with Bobby Rahal. Quick driver in the wet, quick driver on the street tracks. Will have the patience required, I would think, but better not say anything too soon. We've seen a lot of drivers in trouble very early on in this race, and it won't take much. I think they've got Ribeiro's car going. Yes, they have. There is Ribeiro at the back of that train of cars. He just got going. He's allowed the Ganassi cars past, and Rahal now with the task of finding a way past the Penske. I don't think that's going to prove to be too difficult. Andre's a long way down now, and I don't think he's going to fight the position too hard.
That's right. He's, as in actual fact, has lost 2 laps, I think, so he is pretty much out of contention, and here we are on board with Bobby Rahal.
Let's just listen to this for a moment. to aggressively accelerate out of the corners, just feeding the power in very, very gently. Through the gears. I don't think he even had full throttle. Probably if he had full throttle on that straight, it was only for a millisecond. He's just playing with the throttle all the time. They really just can't go to full throttle. All that power comes in, spins the rear wheels. That is slippery out there, there's no doubt about it. Look at Fernandez. Adrian Fernandez trying to get past the lapped car of Andre Ribeiro, and he manages to do so quite comfortably. Tony Kanaan still running well ahead of him. And no change up front at the moment. Last time around, Franchitti had pulled out even more of a lead.
Yeah, he's romping away. He's pulled out 1.9 seconds actually on each of the last 2 laps. And Tracy himself actually is inching away from Alex Zanardi at 2 or 3/10 of a second a lap as well. So Dario is really making mincemeat of this field. He's pulling away rapidly.
Now, of course, we don't know how the cars were adjusted or changed for the wet conditions. Some teams may well have decided, as we heard from Tony Kanaan, to leave the car as it was, except for adding a bit more wing, and basically stay on a dry setup. Other teams may have decided to soften the car off a bit to give the drivers more feel and make a more suitable setup for wet conditions. The track is drying a little bit, but not very fast at the moment, I have to say. It's taking a while, and those drivers are going to stay on their wet tyres for a while longer yet. They're some 12 seconds off their dry weather pace, and that's definitely a signal to stay on those wets for the moment. Another good lap there from Franchitti, a 1:15.001. There is the race leader. His lead up to nearly 6 seconds over teammate Paul Tracy. Brilliant performance so far in the early laps.
Yeah, but I look out there we are. There is a pile up there. It's kind of in front of us at the last corner, turn 10. The track is absolutely blocked. There is no way through for these guys. And there, oh dear.
It's all going to
We
happen.
need to get these cars. The red flag is out.
The red flag has to be out. And we still may get more cars joining into this before it's over. Sospiri is trying to pick a way through on one side there. There's really no point. The red flag comes out and the race has had to be stopped as a result of this accident coming around out of the last corner onto the start-finish straight. The teams will have been onto their radios telling the drivers, slow down, don't worry, don't try to go around that last corner, and they hope their radio works so that they can pass on the information. And well, hopefully it looks as though everybody else is coming into the pit lane, and that's good news. Now the scoring will go back to the lap before, but let's see if we can find out what happened here to set this all off.
Yeah, there is Alex Barron there, and you can see Michel Jourdain Jr. spinning there. Looks like he got together with Robbie Gordon. It looked like Robbie Gordon hit the back end of Michel Jourdain Jr. You can see Jourdain puts his hands up, and as does Mark Blundell. Frustration. There is Scott Pruitt. Here comes Alex Barron and JJ Leto, and there is Michel Jourdain Jr. clipped from behind by Robbie Gordon.
Yeah, it looks as though Gordon was having an attempt to go past. Here we are, there's the he was locked up and just bounced into the side of Jourdain, and I have to say he wasn't there. It was an optimistic manoeuvre. He was overcommitted. Jourdain turned into the corner and contact was made, and so that really basically left a traffic jam for everybody else to try and circumnavigate. No chance. Look at the damage to the nose cone. Red flag, and they'll all have to start again from the pit lane in the order they were in 1 lap before the red came out. Welcome back to Eurosport's coverage, live from the Texaco Grand Prix of Houston. The scene down in the pit lane with the red flag having been brought out on this race. Dario Franchitti was leading when it came out. In fact, he'd built up a 6-second advantage over teammate Paul Tracy. Alex Zanardi third, Jimmy Vasser fourth, Bobby Rahal in fifth. Now, here's a replay. Robbie Gordon tried to get down the inside, was all locked up into the side of Michel Jourdain's car. The two of them collecting each other and then spinning right in front of Mark Blundell, who had a good view of it all. And he was just remonstrating as he came past just a moment ago. He was still remonstrating with Robbie Gordon.
Yeah, he was not very impressed at all. And in fact, as they were both push-started, those two, several minutes after this incident took place, Robbie Gordon almost hit Mark Blundell as he was just driving off down the pit straight. So Mark was making his feelings perfectly clear, I think, in that instance.
Well, cars are in the pit lane, red flags come out. We were told earlier on that, in fact, teams are allowed to work on the cars under red flag conditions, so they can refuel, they can do whatever they like at this point.
That's right, and the Peyton Coyne team will be able to change that nose cone on Michel Jourdain Jr.'s Reynard.
Let's go down to Kim Green.
The wet, so even if it dried, you guys were pretty confident. Now you have a red flag, Kim Green. What do you change on the car?
Well, obviously, once the CART allows us to work on the car, we'll fuel it. Dario's comments during the first few laps, when there were some yellows, that it was like driving on an ice rink. All the white lines on the racetrack and all the manhole covers make it very, very slippery. He was running well and pulling away from Paul, who was also in turn pulling away from Zanardi. So both drivers are pretty comfortable. You know, the big call for us will be, when do we switch to dry tyres, if and when the racetrack dries out, providing it doesn't rain some more.
Any chance you could put them on now and take a chance?
No, I think that would be a big risk. The track is still very slippery. I mean, obviously, it also depends how long this red flag it stops the race for. You know, we're in a very hot climate here right now, 90+ degrees. Things will dry out very quickly, but at this point, I'd say we'll be staying on wets at least for the next 5 to 10 minutes.
Thank you, Kim. Let's get to Gary.
Well, I'm not surprised there. As you said, Jeremy, just looking at the lap times over the last few laps, you were saying that it didn't appear as though any change was happening to the track.
No, not really. Last lap around, Dario Franchitti said a 1:15, and on the first lap of green flag racing, he did a 1:15.9. So really not much improvement there at all. And we talked about the newness of this track surface, and because of the humidity here, it tends to draw up the moisture and the oil in that asphalt mixture up to the surface in these sort of conditions, and that makes it oh so treacherous.
Bit of a spray of WD-40 all over the front suspension of Alex Zanardi's car, and a bit of wiping of mirrors on Jimmy Vassar's. Now, of course, they can change setup. They may decide at this point, seeing how slippery it is, to change the setup on these Ganassi cars. But, well, they'll just have to work that one out, and depending on whether they think the track is going to dry up later on in this race. And as Zanardi was saying in an interview he did over the course of this weekend, one thing he's learnt from Jimmy Vassar is to be more patient perhaps in the early part of the race. I think he's going to be fairly happy to be sitting there in third position when this race restarts in a little while. 13 laps have been completed. We're waiting for this red flag period to be finished. Stay with us. A view of the cars being pushed back into position now. Now they're taking position after the red flag that has stopped the first, well, 12 laps it is now. They've done 13 laps, but they're going back a lap as a result of the red flag coming out. And they will now all start in the position that they were in at the end of lap number 12. So that means that Franchitti will be in front, Tracy second, Zanardi third, Vassar fourth, Bobby Rahal fifth, and Tony Kanaan in 6th place. Well, while we've got a moment, let's take a chance to look at some fun racing that has taken place just recently. We're taking a look back at the Laguna Seca event. Thankfully, it was held under much brighter blue skies. It really was a fantastic day in California, and at the start of the race, Brian Herter managed to launch himself into the lead ahead of Dario Franchitti, who shared the front row with him. But Michael Andretti found himself hit from behind. JJ Leto, in turn, had been hit by Christian Fittipaldi. And then there was a spin up at the top of the corkscrew as Bobby Rahal got touched by the man who will replace him, Max Papis.
And later on in the race, Dario Franchitti there slides wide in turn 2. Tony Kanaan says thank you very much, goes through into 3rd place.
And another incident between De Ferran and Pruitt with Carpentier involved, took those three out towards the end, and it was the battle to the flag between Herter and Zanardi.
2 years previously, at that very point, Zanardi denied Herter his first win, but not on this occasion, Ben.
So Brian came through to win his first ever race at Laguna Seca, a great track for him in the past and now in the present as well. Comes to Houston with that win under his belt, and there he is being pushed back into grid position. He will start the race from quite a long way down. Remember, he was involved in that accident at the start, the beginning. 20th position he'll be on the grid. He got squeezed out by De Ferran when he spun on the original start.
Yeah, but he made a few places, passed a couple of guys. He's actually been, he was all over the back end of Al Unser Jr.'s car trying to squeeze his way through. Wasn't able to do that in those first few laps, but now he'll have another chance to try and get past Al Jr.
Well, what a race of incident they're seeing here in Houston for the first ever race, the first ever Champ Car race to be held in Houston. And a huge crowd, as we mentioned. You can just see the top of the grandstand in the background there of the shot. And I can tell you that they are pretty full in spite of the weather, in spite of all this sitting around or waiting for something to happen. It's still a tremendous crowd that's turned up. The only problem is we now have some fog and low cloud beginning to roll in. So that could cause our next problem. Temperatures have been up in the high, well, mid-90 degree Fahrenheit mark throughout this week so far. It's still very warm out there. Let's just take a look. Now, that was the result at the end of 13 laps. but of course they'll go back a lap from that for the starting positions.
Quite sure what the out means there for Adrian Fernandez. He was running pretty happily there in 7th place, but Papis, great start for him, really doing well in the Reynard Toyota. More points in the offing for him. And back down the field there's Robbie Gordon. He will take the restart in 16th place, even though he seemed to, well, he didn't seem to, he did cause that red flag stoppage. Yeah. You know, looking out of the window here, I'm looking at downtown Houston, and there's the top of several of the skyscrapers that are actually out of view because of the low clouds. But I don't think that's really going to affect the racing any, and we should be back underway here pretty sharply.
Well, it's great for Texas to have a race at last. It's been a long time, over 20 years since there was a race, and there was never a CART-sanctioned race. This was a CART-sanctioned race, of course. First time they've been here in this form. They have run on various speedways in the past in this state. First time on this street track. Well, while we have to wait for the grid to be reassembled, we'll take the opportunity to take a break. But stay with us. Welcome back here on Eurosport as we still wait for these cars to be fully assembled. Grid positions determined by where they were when the red flag came out, and still waiting for that to be all sorted out, but they are getting pretty close now. They're all lined up in the pit lane just below us, and it looks as though in fact they're beginning to think about starting up engines on one or two cars. I'm just looking down from our commentary position, and I can see the back of the two cars you're looking at on screen at the moment, the two Team Green machines of Dario Franchitti and Paul Tracy, who are running first and second. Look at this, the fans are still enjoying themselves though. This is brilliant, isn't it? These are true enthusiasts. They've been through a real rainstorm. They're the Mexican fans who've just driven up from the border. It's not too far away from here in Houston, closest point to Mexico of the Champ Car Series at least. And they're still enjoying themselves. Good to see that. Adrian Fernandez, their top representative, in 7th position. Well, we've seen quite a lot happen already here this afternoon. Perhaps it's an opportunity for us to take a look back over what exactly has happened here. First of all, we had a massive rain shower. It was about half an hour before the start of the race was due to happen. Eventually, they got the track cleaned up sufficiently to get the race underway. The start of the race, and Greg Moore led away from pole position. It was a single file start, but Dario Franchitti went for the move into the first corner and pulled it off beautifully, cleanly, as Paul Tracy moved up into 3rd position.
But on the first lap there goes Gilles de Ferran spinning around there, and he comes across and knocks into the side of Brian Herder's car too, and in the background there, that was Alan Jr. spinning as well.
Then de Ferran spun on the very next corner too. Managed to get himself going. This time, nobody else was involved. The green flag flew. Christian Fittipaldi trying to get past Greg Moore, thought about it again and decided to tuck in behind. He might be regretting that now because Moore spun it, went backwards and straight into Fittipaldi's car. Then another incident. Robbie Gordon hit Michel Jourdain through the last corner. They tangled, and eventually it meant the track was blocked coming out of that corner, and that is what caused the red flag.
Yeah, and Robbie Gordon wasn't content with hitting Jourdain Jr. under braking for the corner, then hit him again coming out of the corner just to make sure he was going to spin. Not quite sure what he was really thinking there. He didn't leave the Mexican driver any room at all. One would have thought after the initial contact he could have gone on the brakes a little bit, slowed it down, and at least allowed Jourdain to try and get the car sorted out, but oh no.
Oh no. Well, here we go. The cars are coming out of the pit lane now, and we're getting ready to get things underway. Tony Kanaan takes a slightly different route out of the pits, but they all have to hold position, of course.
And here coming into the picture now is Gilles de Ferran. Of course, he's spun twice already, hasn't he? Where is he? In 9th position.
Yeah, I don't quite understand how he's done that. Of course, he pushed Brian Herter way back down the field, didn't he? Brian is down in 20th place, and de Ferran, who caused that initial incident, he finds himself in 9th. So that's all a bit daft, but anyway, we shall see what happens. The yellow flag waves at the moment as the cars follow the pace car around. No doubt they'll do a lap or two behind pace car before they go green again. And you're watching on board here with Richie Hearn, the American racer for Budweiser in the Swift chassis. He lies in 13th position at the moment. They're just messing around a bit on our timing screen.
Yeah, it's just the order in which they actually went across the timing beam. He actually will take the restart in 10th position. Pretty good considering he started 18th. And Richard's done a nice job in this race so far. He has kept his nose clean. Done a very good job for John Della Penna. And Budweiser and Ralph's, of course, are sponsored on that Swift Ford Cosworth. Good effort by that team this year. They don't have the biggest budget by a long way, but they've made good progress with the car, and they've been very competitive on occasion.
Well, you can see the target team trying to dry the track out a little bit for their men. I think it's all getting a little silly, but everybody joining in the spirit of things. The heat buster there doing the job. And their two men, of course, still running well up in this race, running third and fourth when the race is restarted. Looking down on the manhole cover, that's what they're trying to dry out. And there's an inordinate number of these manhole covers around the track. And we mentioned that they'd smoothed it out beautifully well over those covers. But of course, it is a metal surface, and there's not a lot they can do to stop them being extremely slippery when it rains.
No, what they've actually done around the racetrack is that they've laid asphalt on the ground there, and then they've cut into that asphalt to inlay the manhole cover, rather than the historical way was to put the manhole cover in and then lay the concrete around that. But as you smoothed it out, it tend to ripple up against the manhole cover and produce inordinate bumps. But this method is really working well, and none of the drivers at all complaining about the manhole covers on this track. A great job by the city officials here.
Well, none complaining until it rained, but perhaps it makes life a bit difficult when they're wet as well. I should think they slide around a lot.
Yeah, it's pretty slippery, but at least it's not bumpy and slippery.
That's true, very true. Yes, well, the manhole covers, of course, all bolted down as they have to be. They're not just left as they are. They're bolted down, 4 serious-looking bolts holding them down, so there's never any danger of them being flicked up, which, of course, was known in history of motorsport and has caused some nasty accidents in the past, but hopefully nothing like that can happen now. So Franchitti and Tracy lead them round. There's the onboard view with Bobby Rahal. A little bit more of dry patches on the circuit, but not really enough, I wouldn't think, to go for slicks yet.
Another report from the pit lane, Michel Jourdain Jr., who of course was involved in that accident. He's ruining the decision, I think, not to put on slick tyres. He thinks that if they put on slicks, they could have gained an advantage here. And he's wondering whether they should have done that last time around. But he's shown those out of the race, but that was before the red flag. He is now back in the race, and I think will be taking up his position around about 15th position.
Yes, and apparently Vassar's on the radio saying that he reckons it's going to be slicks within a few laps. So it certainly is going to change the complexion of this race once we start getting into pit stops. They have refueled, of course, remember. They were allowed to refuel the cars when they made that last stop. What's Zanardi? He's much closer to the 2 Team Green cars. We're still waiting for it to go green. It's still yellow at the moment. And I think they're doing the same again. They're going to allow Franchitti to set the pace on this last pace lap. And then that will just give a little bit of spacing, perhaps, to the cars. And perhaps that will lead to a slightly cleaner restart. But I think everybody will be a little wiser to the fact this time and not allow Dario to get away with it quite so much. He already beginning to accelerate hard as they go up through turn number 3 there. The rest of the field filing through dutifully. There is Franchitti, there is Tracy, Zanardi behind, and Franchitti definitely picking up the pace now and looking towards picking up the green flag at the end of the lap, but I think he's pretty much flat out already as they head down the main straight, down towards turn number 5. He gets through there cleanly. It's Franchitti and Tracy, Zanardi, Vassar, then Rahal, remember, holding on to 5th, Tony Cadan 6th, with Adrian Fernandez 7th, Max Papis in 8th, Gilles de Ferran 9th, and Richie Hearn 11th, Mauricio Guterman is 11th rather, and Scott Pruitt is in 12th, Alex Barron in 13th, and JJ Leto in 14th. Here they go through the last couple of corners. This will bring them along to the start-finish straight, and we can go green again. Thankfully, the red flag period is over. Green flag once again, and away we go. Racing is on as Franchitti leads them across the line. Bit of space between them. Let's look in the background there. Let's hope they all get out of that final corner safely. A passing manoeuvre coming up here, perhaps, as Andre Ribeiro, who has been lapped, remember, is being passed by Max Papis into turn 1. Gilles de Ferran also squeezing through, just about makes it cleanly. Indeed, Richie Hearn does as well. That looked a little bit tight, but Ribeiro being sensible and keeping out of the way of these cars who are a lap or so ahead of him as a result of that spin he suffered earlier on in the race. Scott Pruitt's the next one to try and get past.
Yeah, not able to do it right there, so he tucks in behind, and right behind Scott Pruitt there is the Eagle Toyota of Alex Barron up in 13th position. Pruitt now looks alongside on the fastest part of the course. There is Papis turning in, Gilles de Ferran, Richie Hearn, Mauricio Guterman, there is Ribeiro, and there is Scott Pruitt with all at the back of him. There is the Eagle Toyota of Alex Barron.
Yeah, that's right. Looks as though he's going to get too close for a moment, but I think he just about managed to save it. On board now with Scott Pruitt in the Vistion car, still behind Andre Ribeiro, moves to the inside, but doesn't really make an attempt to pass. and they accelerate out of turn 7, turn 8. This is very slippery through here, and then back on the power. The leader's just coming past this finish line at the moment, and Franchitti still ahead of Tracy, 2.5 seconds the gap, and then another 2 seconds back to Alex Zanardi. So again, Franchitti seems to be setting the pace as Scott Pruitt has a little look at getting past Ribeiro down into turn 1. Is he going to do this? Yes, he is, because Ribeiro gave him plenty of room. But Pruitt still being very cautious in going past the Penske. And in fact, Barron's got past him as well. So Ribeiro doing a good job of keeping out of trouble. JJ Leto now is the next one to go through, and Robbie Gordon just behind him. There's Gordon at the inside, so the man who was very much a part of that accident earlier on gets past the Penske. Behind them you can see Mark Blundell. Blundell's down in 16th position, and Patrick Carpentier in 17th position. In fact, Carpentier there perhaps looking to get past Blundell. Carpentier's down the inside, and that is a pace change for Patrick Carpentier. He's found a way past, and Brian Hertz is right behind them, so is Alonso Jr. So that's proving to be quite an exciting little battle as Ribeiro at the front of the group, but remember, he is a lap down. Carpentier goes past him. Herter goes down the inside of Blundell. It's all happening in that little group.
Yeah, there's some great stuff going on down there, and the leader's coming past here. That is 18 laps in the books now. There he is, Dario Franchitti, still pulling away into perhaps 3/4 of a second a lap or so. So again, good pace by Dario Franchitti, and they're going a good bit faster now. They're into the 12s already.
Yes, I would imagine they'd want to be around about the 1:10 mark before slicks is a viable option, particularly remembering that tyre warmers are not allowed in Champ Car racing, so they would have to go out on stone cold slicks, and on a slippery surface like that, it's going to take a few laps to get them up to temperature. It could be a bit of a gamble. Meanwhile, Mark Blundell is in the pits, but he has put slicks on, I think. The first man to put slicks on the car. Well, remember what he did in Portland last year when he timed to perfection going on to slick tyres. Mark's decided that there's no point in battling down that group of cars. They're not really going anywhere, so he's taking the option of being the first onto slicks. It's going to take him a lap or two, but once he's got those tyres up to temperature, we'll have to track his lap times.
And watch this pit exit here. It's so tricky through that pit lane exit. It wends its way around, and Dario Franchitti comes past us here. And will Blundell be able to get back out onto the racetrack before Franchitti comes past him?
Well, it's going to be close. Franchitti won't. There is Franchitti, not far behind, and Blundell's got to be ever so careful on these slick tyres, and it doesn't look to me as though he's going to be able to hold off Franchitti. He's not even going to try. He's just gingerly driving around. Watch the steering, watch how much movement he's putting into the steering, and that's just as he's trying to feel the grip level on slick tyres in these conditions. And even in a straight line here, he won't be able to accelerate flat out. He'll be sensitive with the throttle, changing up the gears carefully, just trying to get a little bit of heat in the tyres, and while he's doing that, Paul Tracy goes past.
And he has to be so patient here, so patient. It's got to be so frustrating to see him himself go a lap down. He knows that in a few laps these slicks are going to come up to temperature, and he will be able to set the fastest laps on this racetrack, but he has to make sure that he gets that far, and don't get carried away. Don't worry about the fact that people are going to come past him in these next couple of laps or so.
That's right, Zanardi goes past him on wet tyres still, of course. Vassar's the next one to go past him, but he's just, as you say, Jeremy, just got to be so patient while these tyres come up to temperature. Vassar goes through safely, no problem. So the two Team Green cars continue to lead. Franchitti's lead up to 5.1 seconds. Brilliant wet weather performance so far from Franchitti. Blundell goes across the line. Rahal goes past him, and Kanaan will be the next. Now perhaps the tyres beginning to build up a little heat. It still looks so slippery out there though, and it's going to be a lap or two, I think, before he's really able to show what he can do on slicks. Kanaan accelerates past. They can get on the power earlier with those wet tyres. Up through turn number 3 now. There's Kanaan and Fernandez. Now these two are battling for 6th position. Let's ride on board Adrian for a moment and just follow Tony Kanaan around this slippery track. Gingerly on the brakes into turn number 5. Look how sensitive they have to be here. So progressive, putting on the power, and then smooth on the brakes, trying not to lock a wheel. Changes up early there, and then back down to 2nd gear. was getting wheel spin. Into turns 1 and 2 now. A little bit of a lock-up from Tony Kanaan just ahead of him. The concentration level driving in these conditions between concrete walls is just probably the most that a racing driver has to go through.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. It is so slippery out there. One false move and you're going to go spinning. Well, you jump on that throttle just a little bit too much. 900 horsepower these things have. They're up to 15,000 RPMs, and it comes in with a heck of a bang. And you get too much horsepower at the wrong time, and you are going to spin.
On board now with Richie Hearn. Let's watch his progress. Just keeping an eye on Mark Blundell's times, by the way. First lap that he did past us, not very quick. It was 1 minute 27. So it's about, well, 13 seconds off the pace so far. But of course, he's got to let those tyres come up to temperature. Certainly no one else has come in for slicks yet. That's an important point.
That's absolutely true, and the race leader there, 1 minute 13.2 for Dario Franchitti, and you know he's going a second lap slower than he was his second lap out after this restart was a 12.3. Last lap was a 13.2. The track is not getting any faster.
No, not by very much, that's for sure. This high humidity here, perhaps preventing the track from drying up very much. The moisture is just not being absorbed into the atmosphere. There's enough water in the atmosphere already, and it just will not dry up. On board now with Gilles de Ferran. And de Ferran running 9th, Richie Hearn right behind him in 10th place. Good view there of the swift chassis of Richie Hearn, just trying to close up that gap to the back of de Ferran's car. A little bit earlier we were talking to Derek Walker. The announcement made this weekend that he will be running 2 cars in the championship next year, with Japanese driver Naoki Hattori joining Gilles de Ferran, maintaining the Honda power units. Naoki Hattori moving up from Indy Lights. He's done a couple of seasons in the Indy Lights series. He's done all sorts of bits and pieces. In fact, he failed to pre-qualify a Coloni Formula 1 car back in 1991. So pretty experienced driver. Richie Hearn there going past Gilles de Ferran, so he's got the position, and Richie now moves up into 9th position. So good drive this from Richie Hearn, the American racer who actually raced a bit in France in his early career, so I guess he got used to a bit of wet track driving then.
That's right, with the Winfield School there, he won the American scholarship there and did a year in Formula Renault down in France, and pretty good impression down there. He has a lot of talent, this young man, and it's great that John Della Penna has given him this opportunity to drive in the championship cars, and he is showing that he belongs here.
So round they come, completing another lap. The leaders have now completed 23 laps, and just looking at Mark Blundell's times, he's got down to 1 minute 22, but he's still 8 to 9 seconds off the lead runner's pace. It does seem as though he took the gamble to go for slick tyres, but it didn't pay off, and indeed the leaders, although 1 or 2 moving over to the left-hand side of the track there just to cool those wet tyres down. Out of turn number 5 through turn 6, the sequence of 90-degree left and right-handers. Franchitti now up to 9.2 seconds ahead. This is a masterly drive from the Scotsman, winner of 2 races so far this year, of course, getting into that winning habit. 9.2 seconds ahead. Zanardi in 3rd place has dropped back a long way from Tracy. He's 8 seconds behind Paul Tracy, and then Vassar's just 2 seconds behind Zanardi. So Zanardi's not able to keep up the pace of the Team Green cars. Perhaps biding his time. We're still in the early stages of this race, but that is a very big lead that Franchitti has developed. On board there with Bobby Rahal for a moment, but he's got Tony Kanaan and Adrian Fernandez both bearing down on him. Now, this is the battle hotting up for 5th position, and Rahal is going to have to watch out for these 2. Fernandez using a part of the track to perhaps help cool the tyres down. Rahal also getting onto the wetter part of track. This is the idea, to try and cool those wets down, but still we're not seeing times on our screens that would indicate slicks are the way to go.
That's absolutely right, and Dario Franchitti's last lap around was a 14.4, and again, just to reiterate, that is almost 2 seconds, well, it is more than 2 seconds slower than his second lap after the restart. That really is quite amazing, and Mark Blundell just not able to make any impression at all.
Well, it's really, there's no way they're going to go on to slick tyres yet with those sort of times, and no doubt as we hear the times that Mark Blundell doing out there. They're being relayed up and down the pit lane, everybody watching them very closely. As soon as Mark Blundell starts putting in times that are similar to everybody else, and I'm sure we'll see a lot of people switching on to slicks, but so far he's a long way off those times. As Kanaan there up front, you're watching from Fernandez. Kanaan's got down the inside of Rahal, and Tony Kanaan has made the move past Bobby Rahal. That takes him up into fifth, and Fernandez goes through as well. Fernandez takes advantage of a loss of momentum for Bobby. Bobby's just slithering around. Look at that, the car really sliding around a lot. Over to the inside of the track to pick up some water, cool the tyres, back over to the outside for the line into the next corner. Kanaan is now fifth, Fernandez sixth, Rahal back down to seventh.
Good move there by everybody, really. Fernandez did a good job to take that opportunity to get past Rahal, and credit too for Rahal for not pushing the envelope too far there, not making a mistake and risking taking either of them out of the race.
Yes, good clean racing. Rahal perhaps waiting for later in the race when it's a little drier. Perhaps that will suit the car and set up. At the moment he has to see the two younger drivers. And remember, 23-year-old Tony Kanaan in the LCI car there, looking to wrap up the Rookie of the Year title here today. And really, more importantly than that, he wants to finish further up in the championship. Let's get as high up in the points battle as he can. Tony is 10th at the moment in the point standings. As you mentioned earlier on, Jeremy, top Brazilian in the series. Great effort that in his first year. I'm sure he'd like to move further up into that top 10.
And farther back there we see Richie Hearn comes past in 8th position. Now he has got past several cars as Max Papis comes into the pits, but he's also passed, he passed Max Papis before he came in.
So Max Papis into the pits now. That's interesting. Mark Blundell's just done a 1:17. Now, as I say, as soon as he has started doing times that the other guys are doing on wets, that's the signal. And that's why Papis has decided to come in. Be careful, Max. We saw how careful Blundell was. Are you going to be that careful? Are you going to be cautious enough on these slick tyres? I tell you what, it's easy enough to have a shunt in the pit lane exit if you're not careful. There is Robbie Gordon in the pits as well, his teammate. So the Arciero Wells team have decided to get both cars in early and put them onto slicks. It is just getting to the point now that slick tyres are a suitable option. And indeed he comes back out onto the circuit, and Zanardi perhaps is coming in. Let's just check out as they go past us. Yes, Zanardi's in. There you are. He's in the pit lane, and Zanardi decides to come in relatively early as well. 1 or 2, Adrian Fernandez behind him. He comes past our commentary box, and Zanardi into the pits, right down at the end of the pit lane there, to put slicks on, refuel, and get ready to go once again. Now, what's going on here? Big front wing change, huge front wing change. That's what took the time there. They were really cranking the front wing to change the handling of the car, and well, couldn't see whether it was more front wing or less front wing. Certainly took a while to change it, and Zanardi back out onto the circuit now.
But is it raining again? We hear a report from out on the track that the precipitation has started once again. Boy, that'll throw another spanner in the works.
Yeah, that really would be bad news for everybody if, well, everybody who's coming on slicks or changed to slicks. Not bad news for people like Franchitti and Tracy, who are still out there on wets at the moment. There is Gilles de Ferran. He's decided the time is right to come in and put slick tyres on. Meanwhile, let me tell you that Mark Blundell continuing to do 1:17s. And that's a pretty good effort on the slicks. Franchitti there just lapping some of the slower cars. His lead is massive. There's Gilles de Ferran coming out. Franchitti's lead over 10 seconds. Brilliant performance that. There's Papis on slicks. He's done a lap. De Ferran tucks in behind him. Then they've got Paul Tracy still on wet tyres, remember, right behind. In fact, not for long, because Tracy takes the chance to go through.
And meanwhile, Tony Kanaan has moved past Jimmy Vasser. He's absolutely flying. His last lap round was well, the only guy who was quicker was Dario Franchitti, and he gets past Jimmy Vasser and into third place.
Well, there's definitely the look of rain still in the air. Max Papis slithering around on those slick tyres as he tries to stay in front of Paul Tracy. Tracy on wet still, looking for the way past the Italian. Look at Max's car. That's because it's gripping and not gripping as those tyres begin to heat up, and it looks as though it's darting all over the place as he puts the power on, as he tries to build up a little bit of tyre temperature. Risky business this, trying to stay in front of Paul Tracy. But you can look, you can see that dry line now beginning to develop, and Papis there really was able to pull away out of that last corner, and surely Tracy, for him that's got to be the signal that it's time to come in and put slicks on himself, unless of course he's seeing that little bit of a shower which we're hearing is beginning to develop out there. Well, fun and games here for sure. Franchitti still leading, his lead at 9.7 seconds. Kanaan is now third, of course, having got past Vassar, and with Zanardi having made his pit stop. That means Kanaan is third, Vassar fourth, Rahal fifth, Richie Hearn up to sixth, and then Maurizio Guterman in seventh place. And definitely, look at this, Papis has managed to pull away from Tracy.
He's looking very good indeed, isn't he? And Max Papis, you will look and see what lap time he turned last time around, but it's certainly a good lap indeed.
Yes, Blundell is down into the 1:15s meanwhile, which is actually faster than Franchitti managed last time. It is definitely time to put the slicks on. And to come in this lap, I would think, for race leader Dario Franchitti, for Paul Tracy and for Tony Kanaan, surely they've got to come in soon. Fernandez there has just done a 1:13. Now he has been into the pits. He is on slick tyres, so there's another indicator. That's pretty much the fastest lap of the race so far. Look at Papis trying to find a way past one of the Dan Gurney cars, All-American racers, gets past cleanly and continues on his way with those slick tyres now, coming fully up to temperature. Accelerates out of turn 2 now then. This should be interesting. On board with Alex Zanardi as he tries to get these slicks to work. Again, you can see how careful he's having to be. Oof. Brian Herter went very wide into that corner, and Zanardi's managed to nick past him. Herter made a little bit of an error going in there, lying in 10th place at the moment. Meanwhile, into the pits come a few cars, and including some of the leaders, but it looks as though Team Green are ready. Brian Herter is in the pits. It looks as though the Tasman team is also ready for Tony Kanaan, and Jimmy Vassar also due to come in. I think he's already in the pit lane. Actually, Jimmy Vassar may already be in. There is Herter.
Yeah, he went around to complete lap 30. We do have 30 laps in the books. We're looking out for Dario Franchitti. Here he comes fast, sliding out of turn 10 here, and ahead of him is Alonso Jr. There is that is the second place car of Paul Tracy coming into the pit lane.
Yeah, and all important stop. He hits one of those cones coming in. I don't know whether that's going to cause a problem or not. They're supposed to stay to one side of those cones. There may be a problem there. We'll have to wait and see. But the slicks go on board, and Paul Tracy gets ready to come out now. Will they make any changes on the car? Doesn't look like it. They've sent him out, but we're hearing it will be a drive-through penalty for hitting that cone. Well, no great surprise there. The cones are put there for a reason, to protect the Newman-Haas pit, which is right up at the end of the pit lane, and to knock a cone over, in theory, puts the Newman-Haas guys in danger. So there will be a drive-through penalty for Paul Tracy. Meanwhile, Jimmy Vassar has chosen this point to come into the pits and put on slicks.
Yeah, there is Grant Weaver and crew going to wait to see the bespectacled Jimmy Vassar. He gets underway again, so that is Elio Castro-Neves behind him.
So, Franchitti, has he come in yet? He will be in this lap. We're hearing on the radio that Dario Franchitti's due in this lap. They've left it a little late, but he had a big enough advantage that it should be okay. Meanwhile, Zanardi and Fernandez are in the 1:11s. There is Dario. Race leader, don't hit those cones, Dario. Well, he just about missed them. Otherwise, he would also have to do a drive-through penalty. Comes into his pits, and the boys go to work. The jack, you can see that onboard jack in the middle of the car at the back there, lifts the car up in the air. That's as a result of that airline that goes in over the top. The jack withdraws, they get ready to go, and away he goes. A little bit of slipping and sliding, but he gets away safely. Almost identical stop to Paul Tracy's there, and Dario Franchitti rejoins. He should be in good shape, even though he's come in a little later. He had such a big advantage by the time he came in. Now he's got to behave himself on those cold slicks. Now this is what happened to Paul Tracy. He came in, he understeered, bang, just into that cone. He only got it wrong by a little bit, but that's enough for everybody to call a penalty, or for the CART officials to call a penalty. That's what we're hearing. We'll wait to see if that's confirmed. Meanwhile, Bobby Rahal has come out onto, well, he's out of the pit lane on his slick tyres. No, we're hearing the latest thing is that they're not going to give Tracy a penalty. Now that surprises me, I have to say.
Well, Kurt Russell made it perfectly clear, I thought, this morning in our briefing with him, that if you did clip a cone coming into the pits, you would get a penalty. But now Wally Diamondback is saying no.
Well, looks as though Tracy may indeed have got away with it. And Dario Franchitti, there he is, race leader with Richie Hearn well up there. In fact, Dario's come out back in front. He's still ahead of everybody. Richie Hearn has moved up to second, it looks like, as a result of not coming in yet. Quick stop there for Alonso Jr. Under 10 seconds, apparently. 9.7 seconds for Alonso Jr. And Meanwhile, Dario Franchitti is race leader. Richie Hearn has moved into second, but he's yet to come onto slick tyres. Just on 1:13 though, so still putting in some quick laps is Richie Hearn on those Firestone wets. Race leader comes over the line. Franchitti leads, 2 seconds ahead of Richie Hearn. Tracy another half a second behind. Then Alex Zanardi in 4th place, and he now only another 2 seconds behind Tracy. So Zanardi has gained a lot over in terms of his battle with Tracy. And in fact, he pretty close behind this battle. That was Richie Hearn there. But Franchitti and Tracy trying to pick their way through the back markers. Now Zanardi also trying to pick his way through. He's got past Richie Hearn. Richie Hearn has dropped down to 4th place as a result of that now. Again, gently does it for Richie Hearn, still on tyres that have not been changed, still on the wet tyres. Meanwhile, there's just been the most astounding lap being put in by, who do you think? Well, you probably won't guess. It's Max Papis. He's just done a 1:07.9, and that's about 2 seconds faster than anything else we've seen so far.
At least. And a great effort by him there. And we can see that down into turn 1, the 2 Team Green cars absolutely nose to tail.
Yes, Franchitti and Tracy absolutely together. Look at Franchitti got so sideways. Tracy has a think about going up the inside, but doesn't quite make it. And Franchitti just about stays in front, but that was close indeed between the two of them. Meanwhile, Zanardi's not too far behind. They've got to watch out for this traffic. Franchitti's trying to pick his way through traffic, but that's giving Tracy the chance to close up again. This is on the long straight now. Can Tracy pick up the slipstream here? Look at the Toyota power. It's a match for those 2 Hondas as they try and find a way past the MCI car. Oh, they don't make it. Tracy's gone around the outside of Franchitti. Be careful, you 2 teammates. You could so easily take each other off here.
That's great stuff, and good move by both of them there. But yeah, that Toyota engine, with that, they're perhaps down a little bit on horsepower, but coming off the corners here, Ben, that really is an advantage because you're not going to be spinning the wheels so much. And the Toyota engineers have made tremendous strides this season. And look at them, he actually pulls away through this twisted section. And ooh, there's Alex Barron sliding sideways. And these are the 2 Team Green cars. There is a lap car on Alex Barron, and there in 3rd place is Alex Zanardi.
Yeah, what a tremendous race this is at the moment. As getting out of the way, Robbie Gordon now, he was given the blue and yellow diagonal. That means you've got to get out of the way, so he responds to that. Good move from Gordon as Tracy tries everything to fill Franchitti's mirrors, try and make Franchitti make a little mistake perhaps to take the advantage out of that all-important turn number 4. Hard on the power, and here's Tracy's chance perhaps if he can just get a bit of straight line speed, but he doesn't seem to have the edge in a straight line. Perhaps he's running a little more downforce on that car, quite possible. We saw some changes being made in the pit lane, and that might be why Paul is very quick through the twisty sections, but he doesn't seem to be able to close up to Franchitti where he needs to at the end of that straight.
Cat and mouse game. There's great stuff going on here, and more battles down the field. Some tremendous racing going in. Now we've got this race into its stride, and they're a good exit again for Paul Tracy, but not able to get close enough to Dario Franchitti to make a pass. Here they come past us. There's 36 laps in the books.
Alex Zanardi, meanwhile, has got bulked behind Alex Barron, and he can't seem to find a way past. Look at this battle for the lead, though. Tracy all over the back of Franchitti, and Tracy so desperate to get a good result, to try and get a win in the bag after such a tough season. He's been outclassed by Franchitti throughout this year, and now perhaps is his chance to get past and pull away, and he's not going to let that chance slip away here. Close to the wall on the exit of that all-important turn number 4 onto the long straight.
Yeah, I wish we were looking back at Max Papis. He is giving Jimmy Vasser everything in that. Look at a locked-up brake there as Tracy looks to the inside. No, he can't make it past. He slides there on the exit. There is Paul Tracy, a little bit back in the field now in 6th place. I've got to give a call to Max Papis. He was all over Jimmy Vasser as he came past here, absolutely flying.
And I tell you what, just behind Max, Gilles de Ferran put in a fastest lap of 1:06. So we really are seeing much faster times. It's suddenly got so much quicker out there with that dry line developing, and Franchitti's just managed to open up a little bit of a gap over Tracy, a little bit of breathing space, but there's more traffic coming up soon, and And oh dear, it looks as though it's all over for Bobby Rahal. In the pits, out of the car, and the veteran is out of the race here in Houston. A shame that, in fact, Bobby leading in terms of numbers of laps completed up until this race. Zanardi's actually completed the most miles, but Rahal's completed the most laps of the season. And unfortunately, Rahal now out of the race.
Yeah, that is a shame. He had been running very, very well indeed there. And here's another battle here. That is Gugelmin there looking to be passed. And Franchitti gets alongside him on the brake at the end of turn 5 here. Yep, Gugelmin lets him go through.
Tracy really came up quickly behind Gugelmin there, and he's also trying to get through safely and securely. Tracy in second place, remember, behind Franchitti, and yeah, Gugelmin gives him plenty of room. Doesn't fight that battle, and so they continue on round. We're hearing that those cones that Paul Tracy hit, well, they're actually taking them away now. The reason those cones were there was to protect the Newman-Haas pits. And oh no, look at that! Into the tyres has gone Carpentier. That's on the last corner, or right by the pit lane entry. A lot of damage to the right front there, and that could bring out a full course caution. Although it's very close to the pits, I can't see how they're going to get that car out of the way without getting everybody behind the pace car. And Patrick Carpentier is the latest victim here of such tricky conditions.
Yeah, and heavily into the tyre barrier there, and it certainly is a very dangerous location, and it's going to be tough to get to that car. Well, I can't see any way they can get to the car without going full course caution, frankly.
No, we don't see the signal being given yet.
Well, I'm looking at, yeah, there is Jim Swintel. I can see him now just waving the flags as we talk there, and out come the flags.
Fernandez just trying to get past Vitolo as that yellow came out, and he backed off because of the yellow, and Vitolo went past. Now I wonder if they'll readjust that once they get the cars up behind the pace car. No doubt CART officials will be keeping an eye on that sort of thing. So as the yellow comes out on lap number 39, Franchitti, race leader, had a second advantage over Tracy. Zanardi was another 7 seconds back. And there again, the view of Carpentier into the tyre barrier. So out of the race for him. And at the moment it's still Zanardi third, Canaan fourth, Jimmy Vasser fifth, Max Papis in sixth. Look at De Ferran. What has happened to De Ferran? One of the fastest over the last few laps, and he's being pushed out of the way. So I didn't see what happened. Car looks okay. Can't see any visible signs of damage.
No, boy, he's had awful luck this season, Gilles De Ferran. He's been quick just about everywhere, but 5 of the last 6 races he's failed to finish. It looks like the same again this weekend. He was running so strongly too. He was up in the 7th place, but turning some very quick laps indeed.
Onto slicks, Gugelmin, but also in the pits comes Blundell. He was already on slicks, but they've put a new set on and decided to refuel him at this stage. Meanwhile, the Canadian, Patrick Carpentier, clambers out of his car, bashing his head. So that's the sort of body language that means my mistake, and I'm pretty angry with myself. So yeah, he's unfortunately out of the race. Gilles De Ferran just making a bit of a mistake by the looks of it. That's put him out of this one. So I don't know if we'll get a chance to see what happened exactly. But unfortunately, 2 cars out in the space of a lap there. That's Patrick Carpentier. Now we might get a chance to see what happened here. Look for the blue and white car in the background. It'll probably just spear its way from right-hand side of picture to left. There he was. Came in too wide, too fast, and understeered. That's what you call understeer.
Yes, it is indeed. The front end of the car just not wanting to grip there, and there is Carpentier getting a helping hand across the pit lane there by the Terrier Billy Camphausen. He is the pit lane marshal here for CART. He's been doing that job for many, many years. Very well respected. Tremendous energy that man has, and he's a great friend of everybody up and down the pit lane. He works so hard for Championship Auto Racing teams. A great character.
So they're the 2 leaders behind the pace car. Franchitti, followed by Tracy. And then Zanardi behind the eagle of Alex Barron. Just didn't seem to find a way past that. Barron is actually running down in 14th position a lap down. Oh, and what's going on here? This is all a little bit strange. Andre Ribeiro. Now, did he spin that while they were all going slowly? Did he come in the pits or something? Or?
No, he went off on his own, unfortunately. A bit embarrassing.
How strange. I wonder if he was trying to catch up to the back of the queue. Helio Castroneves is out. Now, this could be the end of his chance for the Rookie of the Year title. Canaan up there in 4th place. There's Andre Ribeiro, having spun it. Now they might be able to get him going with a bit of luck. And Franchitti, still race leader here in Houston.
Well, as we leave the action here from the Grand Prix at Houston, Dario Franchitti in charge, but Paul Tracy keeping him honest. The two teammates leading from Alex Zanardi, confirmed already as champion. I can tell you that while there have been insets and upsets in Texas, the NASCAR race has been progressing apace, and we will join the action live in just a moment at Charlotte, North Carolina.
He went for the move at the end of the main straight, down into turn number 5. Tried to get alongside, didn't make it. Franchitti turned in, it was his line, contact was made, and the damage done to Tracy's front suspension. Tracy's been hounding Franchitti, looking for a way past, but to make it move, he had to go for the clean pass, and it wasn't clean enough. He wasn't alongside enough, and that's the view down in Paul Tracy's pit. How angry is he? Well, the camera crew being waved away a little bit at the moment. No doubt Tracy is extremely angry, and that good relationship that I talked about between Dario Franchitti and Paul Tracy, well, it could all be over now. I don't think Paul wants to stop to talk to anybody as Dario Franchitti continues on his way round. No yellow flags as a result of that. They're continuing to race, and Paul and his wife Lisa decide to get out of there as quickly as possible.
Paul will do himself any favours there whatsoever, and in those situations you've got to face the fireworks. I think he made a mistake, he knows that he made a mistake, and he shouldn't have tucked his nose in that situation. But you know, I just hope that he hasn't damaged the rear of Dario Franchitti's car. So it doesn't seem to be, because Dario is continuing to pull away from Alex Zanardi.
Interesting, Barry Green on the radio to Dario Franchitti. We've just heard up here in the box, he said to Dario, keep going mate, you did nothing wrong there. Interesting to hear that from his team boss. And of course Barry Green talks to Paul Tracy during the race normally, but he's actually come onto the radio to Dario and said, we don't blame you at all for what happened, keep going and concentrate on winning this race. And that's good. I mean, even if he had done something wrong, I think that's the right thing for the team manager to say, because at the end of the day, they've got to keep Dario's concentration up here.
Absolutely right, and he is doing a stellar job at the front of the field. That was his line, he took it, and Tracy was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. And Dario Franchitti now, that's good work by Barry Green. He has to, as you say, not lose concentration. It's awfully difficult to make a mistake on this racetrack. It is still pretty slippery, and there is word we hear from the pits that Barry Green and Paul Tracy actually got nose to nose there. I don't think Barry was very impressed at all, and quite rightly so.
Well, they continue round. Franchitti has a lead of 3.5 seconds. With all that drama taking place, it looks as though the car's okay. Lap times fine, 1 minute 3.7 now that they're on this pretty much dry track. Well, it's dry on line, still slippery offline, of course, and a 3.5 second lead to Alex Zanardi. Tony Kanaan in 3rd. Jimmy Vasser still there in 4th. Max Papis is now 5th. He got ahead of, no, of course Tracy went out, so that moved him up into 5th place. And we got a little bit of report that there could be some more rain around, and certainly looking out of our commentary box window, there is some rain beginning to fall again up at the end of the track, so this could make life even more difficult. Are they going to stay out there on slicks and hope that the rain disappears, or are they going to have to come in and switch to wet? Look at this little group that's battling away here. Mark Blundell is in 16th position, but Fernandez is a lap ahead and trying to put another lap on Blundell. Yeah, and Blundell and Sospiri, they're changing positions. That was a battle for position. That was for 14th place, and Gujamin, actually Blundell's teammate, was holding up that whole group of cars, and he slowed down on the previous lap, so he's got out of the way. And I'm not quite sure where Gujamin has gone actually, but he has slowed right down, maybe even pulled off to the side of the racetrack, and now this group is able to get past and have some clear sailing ahead of them. So Spiri doing a pretty good job at the moment to be in 14th place, only his 2nd Champ Car outing, and he's certainly been in one of the most difficult, I should say, with the wet conditions here on a new track. And across the line goes Adrian Fernandez, still in 6th position. Alonso Jr. in 7th place. Don't count Little Owl out of this one yet to see him that well up. That's right, he just got past Richie Hearn on that last lap, and he's really on the moves, Alonso Jr. He passed Brian Herder a couple of laps ago, and now he's setting out after Adrian Fernandez. Fun to see the slippery surface flag being given down there. I thought that was fairly obvious to everybody. Perhaps somebody's dropped a bit of oil just to add to the mixture, who knows? As they continue round, this is lap number 53. So Gujamin down in the pit lane. It looks as though there could be a problem on the Pac West car. of the experienced Brazilian. Definitely looks like it. And, well, that's put him pretty much out of the race now. Guterman, where was he running? Quite a long way down. 17th place he was. He was already a couple of laps down. So, looks bad news for Maurizio Guterman. Mark Blundell up in 14th place, the other of the Pac West drivers. But still looking at the moment here at Alonso Jr. 7th position for him, 8th place for Richie Hearn. Blundell has to keep an eye on his mirrors here. Adrian Fernandez, remember, is way ahead of him in this race. Fernandez running 6th place. And in fact, everybody down to 12th place has been lapped now by the leaders.
Yeah, 11th place actually, because with that problem for, who was it a few laps ago? I'm quite sure now, looking back on the lap chart, it would have been, Paul Tracy, of course, out of the way. So only 11 cars on the lead lap, and Alex Barron now is in position to claim the final point in 12th. And here's his bit battle here. There is Fernandez, Blundell, who is a lap down, and Unser looks to the inside to go past, and right behind then is Richie Hearn.
Yeah, Richie Hearn battling with Unser for 7th place, but now he's got to get past Mark Blundell's car. Should be able to do that on the inside here. Yes, no problem. Blundell's been struggling for pace pretty much this weekend, although put in a better lap in the warm-up this morning, just towards the end of the warm-up. Suddenly seemed to find a bit more, but doesn't seem to be going that quickly now. Brian Herter is the next one who will try to find a way past Mark Blundell and move, or continue his position, in fact, in 9th place. Let me tell you, meanwhile, the leader, Dario Franchitti, still 2 seconds ahead of Alex Zanardi. That gap has remained fairly consistent, hasn't it?
In actual fact, Ben, it's been coming down these last few laps. 3 laps ago it was 3.5, then 3.0, then 2.8, now just 2 seconds between the two leaders. So Alex Zanardi is on a charge. He has pulled away from Tony Kanaan. That gap has increased by 1 second in each of the last 3 laps, and no question about it, Zanardi has his sights set on Dario Franchitti.
Well, that's what's happening up front. We're still concentrating on the battle here for 6th place. Fernandez and Al Unser Jr. in the Penske, looking to find a way past the Mexican. Remember, we've seen how many Mexican fans are here today. They'll be cheering their man on here. Winner of a couple of races this year, one in Japan and one at Mid-Ohio. That's put him well up in the points table. Still battling for 2nd place in the series. And Jimmy Vasser holding on to that place at the moment. Vasser in 4th position in this race. There we are, that's Adrian's progress in this race. Started 12th, moved up gradually as a result of other people's problems and by staying out of trouble, which is certainly something that a lot of drivers have not done today. He now lies 6th with Al Unser Jr. breathing down his neck.
Yeah, and there's Robbie Gordon there, Adrian Fernandez, there is Al Unser Jr. He's had some good runs with this car in the last few races. Not had an awful lot of luck, but he is running strongly here this weekend. And there is Fernandez looking to the inside of Robbie Gordon. No, can't get that past him.
So Robbie Gordon, who's running a couple of laps down, he runs in 13th position. Just shows you, though, how hard it is to get past another car. So competitive, so even between these other machines. So there is Richie Hearn, right at the back of this little group. And, well, just to remind you what happened a little bit while ago, of course, Dario Franchitti had that lead earlier on. He was in that battle with Paul Tracy, and Tracy was looking so aggressive, wanting to find a way past for lap after lap, and then finally Tracy went for the move, and it all went wrong. Tracy tried to go down the inside into that turn number 5, and the contact was made, and that's basically what put the Canadian out. Dario Franchitti has survived that. He is up front in this race and controlling it so far. He opened it up again last time around. It had gone down to 2 seconds between him and Zanardi. Now it's back up to 2.6. Here's Fernandez, and no problem there, getting past Robbie Gordon.
Meantime, Dario Franchitti comes past to complete lap 57, a good lap around there. Actually extends his lead back out to 3.2 seconds, so Franchitti making his point there.
Yes, traffic, of course, playing a part in this gap decreasing and increasing, and Franchitti obviously dealing with traffic pretty well in the last one.
No, there's actually no traffic out there at the moment, Ben. They have clean sailing in front of those two, and it's just a question of pace. And the last couple of laps, Dario's put in a couple of good ones and able to increase his advantage over Alex Zanardi, and now Tony Kanaan pretty much keeping pace there. He's about another 6 to 7 seconds behind in 3rd place, but another great run by this young rookie driver.
Looking out of the commentary box window, checking out the crowds. It still looks pretty pretty much the same, I have to say, very grey, but no further sign of rain falling. That dry line very much developed now. You see Gordon just sliding a little bit close to the wall there. But so far so good. I have to say though, I could see it might rain at any moment. I mean, it's just the way it is here this afternoon. Very, very changeable indeed. We're just going to have to keep an eye on the heavens and see whether it stays dry for the remainder of the race. Gordon there, still in that little group.
Another quick lap for Dario Franchitti, extends the lead to 3.8 seconds over the second place car of Alex Zanardi. And there is Adrian Fernandez. Yes, you say, he's put a bit of daylight in front of Alonso Jr.'s car.
Yeah, he's pulled away a little bit now. A little bit more breathing space. Fernandez still in 6th place, and Unser 7th, Richie Hearn in 8th position. Look at the support Adrian's getting there. Well, the Mexican fans celebrating his position at the moment, but he would love to get ahead of Jimmy Vasser. That's his main target. Vasser running in 4th position and holding on to 2nd place in the championship with 10 points between them at the moment. So Adrian really does need to finish ahead of Jimmy to try and narrow that gap a bit. Yeah, but he's got a long, long way to go. He's 12 seconds behind the next car in front of him on the road, which is Max Papis. And Max Papis' teammate there, Robbie Gordon, is once again holding up Alonso Jr. and allows Fernandez to pull away, but he's still a long way behind the next car in front of him. Yes, that's right. Zanardi's just put in a fast lap as to respond to Dario Franchitti getting away a little bit. Interesting tussle going on as Herta just managed to get past Blundell. That wasn't for position. Herta's 9th, Blundell is in 14th place. But interesting up front, Zanardi and Franchitti. And Zanardi, of course, the double champion, the man who's going off to Formula One, who tested with the Williams Grand Prix team. And he's up against this man's driver. That's Barry Green we're looking at. And Dario Franchitti driving for him this year and doing a superb effort in this race, really managing to match Zanardi for pace and for control and for staying out of trouble so far. They are up amongst some back markers now, so this could change things around a little bit, but nonetheless this is really a great drive so far from Franchitti. Whoops, just nips past Arndt Meyer there. And that could give him a chance to open up the gap a little more over Alex Zanardi. Zanardi has to try and get past Ribeiro and Meyer on this next straight. Now there's about 40 minutes to go in this race, and until the 2-hour mark comes up, 40 laps to go in fact. And it does look as though they're going to have to make an extra pit stop, and one more pit stop to be able to make it through. They've had a lot of green flag running since that red flag stopped the race earlier on. Looking back at Kanaan in 3rd, Vasser 4th, and Max Papis, there he is, running in 5th position. Yeah, and behind Max Papis, that is Alex Barron in the Eagle Toyota, who is actually keeping pace with Max Papis. He was a little bit closer than that a couple of laps ago, but still only, 10, 12 car lengths behind. And those two Toyota engine cars running a very similar pace indeed. Alex Barron's last lap was a 1 minute 3.526. The race leader comes around this time, 1 minute 3.8. So very good pace there by Alex Barron. Yeah, very impressive indeed. And Barron again showing what he can do. He did this in Vancouver where he got into the lead and Michael Andretti couldn't even stay with him. And now he's showing that sort of pace once again with the Eagle chassis. Race leader's gone through again. And again a faster lap from Franchitti than it was from Zanardi. So the gap up to 3.1 seconds once more. And still the battle continues between the experienced Italian, the much more junior Scotsman. Of course, Franchitti though in his 2nd year now, and Zanardi just completing his 3rd year in the championship as he disappears off to the world of World Championship racing. And Zanardi getting his first taste of that Formula One Williams last week, telling us that we're hearing reports of rain now. That is beginning to rain a little bit more, and I'm beginning to see the umbrellas starting to go up as well. I think a flash of lightning there as well, and we're looking at Max Papis, and just let me tell you that Brian Herta did move past Richie Hearn on that lap. That was the battle for 8th position. So we're still seeing changes, but what about this rain? And is it going to catch anybody out? Well, we'll have to wait and see. So far, so good. Let's watch the lap times. Zanardi's last lap was extremely slow. a very slow lap. He must have made a mistake there somewhere, Zanardi. Franchitti got round okay, but Canaan put in a slow lap as well. And there's Canaan versus Vassar. Tony Canaan versus Jimmy Vassar, and Canaan had a slow lap last time around, and that's because of the rain that is around. So Franchitti did extremely well on that last lap. He was only a few tenths slower than before, but he's pulled away again. He's now got a 7-second advantage. Zanardi second, Canaan in third, and Vassar in fourth.
We're looking down in the pit lane here, and a couple of teams have they've got their rain tyres ready to put onto these cars in case the rain comes down a little hard. It looks on that screen, it looks very, very bright indeed. Let me tell you, that is very misleading. It is not that bright at all out there.
No, it's getting gloomier and gloomier, and I'm just watching the people on the grandstand now. They really are beginning to move around, put on jackets. You can see somebody in the back of the picture there putting on a jacket in the pit lane. The rain is falling once again here in Houston, and this is really going to throw things wide open again. The Ganassi pit have got the wets out, now they put them away again, but they're still out perhaps for Jimmy Vassar. Last lap round, Franchitti 2 seconds faster than Zanardi, a 1:05, with Zanardi doing a 1:07. This is some driving we're seeing from Franchitti today. I have to say, very impressive performance so far.
Stunning effort. He's, in the last 2 laps, he's pulled out 7 seconds over this man, Alex Zanardi, now the 2-time PPG Cup champion.
Yeah, that's incredible, and no doubt he's still keeping things under control. Zanardi, you can see how much the car's sliding around now that the track is more slippery, and the lap times correspondingly slower, but Franchitti still seems to be able to find a little bit more grip, a little bit more speed than anybody else, and managing to further stretch that advantage. So careful they have to be though now, not to make a mistake. And remember, we're still expecting another pit stop to be made before the end of this race. Coming through picture, Canaan. Ooh, third place still for Tony Canaan. Where's Jimmy Vassar got to? There he is at the top of the picture. So those two still continuing in third and fourth positions.
And in the meantime, if there is some spots of rain here, even more troubling for Dario Franchitti. We're not looking at it at the moment, but Dario Franchitti has a couple of lap cars right in front of him. His last lap around was a 1:09, so that was 4 or 5 seconds away from his previous time around. Having said that, he's still pulled away from Zanardi by 2 seconds.
Yeah, look at that. I mean, Zanardi did a 1:11, Canaan did a 1:13. They're right back to where they were when they changed from wets to slicks in terms of lap times now. That's how slippery it's become. So who's going to be in for wet tyres? Surely somebody will be in pretty soon.
Well, Adrian Fernandez just came in the pits, also so did Robbie Gordon and Brian Herter. Whether these are scheduled stops, we're not sure.
We've just heard that Dario is going to come in on this lap. He has been called in by the pits, and Dario is due in. There is Adrian Fernandez. Fernandez is in already. He goes on to wet tyres. So he's the first to make the change, but it's definitely the time to do it. It's getting more and more slippery out there as the rain falls. There's the leader. Franchitti is in, and the wet tyres are ready and waiting for him in the Team Green pit. A little flame out from the exhaust there. He gets ready to go again, and away he goes. Be gentle, be smooth. Slippery surface here. And a pretty slow stop, but no big problem. Zanardi is in, the #1 car, the reigning champion, the champion of 1997 and 1998. They go on to wet tyres as well. Franchitti gets past him cleanly, no problems there. And there's a front wing change again, a big front wing change, as he did, in fact, when they changed to slicks. So Zanardi, again, a little bit of a slower stop for him, and he's going to be quite a way behind Franchitti at the end of this lap. Pruitt out as well. He's just switched over onto wet tyres.
And they're winding their way through this sinuous pit lane here. There really was no other opportunity for the officials here other than to have this tortuous pit lane exit. It's very, very slippery, very, very narrow, and there's a 60-mile-an-hour speed limit actually in that part of the pit lane, but let me tell you, there's no way they can even do 60 miles an hour. That's how tight it is.
Well, that's their last pit stop done and dusted, unless of course it dries up and goes to slicks again. But look at the rain falling now. That doesn't look particularly likely, and you can see for yourself just how heavy the rain is and how much it reduces the visibility. In the back there is JJ Leto, and JJ's running in 9th place, so he's done well so far in this race, just stayed out of trouble, and he continues coming down the pit lane.
And flashes of lightning around us here as well, as the rain is coming down harder and harder. There is Alex Zanardi, and there is the race leader, Dario Franchitti.
So Franchitti back on wet tyres. He had the pace in the early part of the race on wet, but now he's got to do it all over again. And coming down into turn number 1. Onto the concrete, slides it. You can see the back end of the car slithering around all over the place. I'm still waiting for Zanardi to come across the line. There he is, 11 seconds later. That's the lead now that Franchitti has, 11.1 seconds over Alex Zanardi. And we're still waiting for Tony Kanaan. Kanaan even further back, let's just see. In fact, there he goes across the line, 25 seconds behind the leader. In 13th place, he stayed on slick tyres apparently. Now there's a brave man. I know he does not for much longer. He comes in. I don't see how he could possibly stay out there on slicks.
No, it's raining pretty hard now, and there goes Adrian Fernandez, who had been passed by Alonso Jr. last time, and look how wet it is in the pit lane there. But this lap around lap 68, Fernandez gets past Alonso Jr. and reclaims 6th position.
Well, surely we have to be, the officials have to be looking at a possible red flag situation with the amount of rain falling at the moment. Difficult one to call. It will depend really on how much standing water there is.
Yeah, I think it's more a situation probably the lightning. That's the real danger here. I mean, the cars are now on wet weather tyres. The drivers know how treacherous the conditions are. They are on the correct tyres. There's really not a dangerous situation from that perspective, but it's the lightning that is the danger.
Yeah, Franchitti nearly getting caught out by JJ Leto. In fact, surviving it quite cleanly. JJ running in 10th place now it is after those pit stops. Both of them sliding around all over the place, aren't they? And Franchitti has to be careful in choosing his moment.
Yeah, and having said that, the rain is coming down harder and harder and harder now, and Dario Franchitti has just called in to say that standing water is a problem, and it's coming down so hard now.
It's gone full course yellow because of the rain. No great surprise there. Full course yellow. The pace cars will come out, and the drivers will be led around slowly because of these conditions. Now that is a very wise decision, I have to say. Bring out the full course yellow and see whether this rain eases off a little bit. It is desperately wet out there at the moment. The rain is just steroids, and there's just no chance really for them. There's a little bit of brightness from that camera angle, but I tell you, if you're looking out of our commentary box, I can't see that bit of brightness. I don't know where the cameraman found that, because it's very, very gloomy.
The lenses they have on these cameras these days are quite amazing, aren't they? They make it look like it's no problem at all, but I tell you, it is horrendous conditions for these drivers.
There he is, coming past the finish line, the full course yellow waving once again. And now he can slow it down, but it's almost worse, I should think, for the drivers now, because they're getting wetter and noticing it. Well, at least when they're driving and they're pushing, they don't really notice getting wet, but when you're going slowly, of course, the rain just fills the cockpit up, and you feel wet, you feel cold and miserable, even though it's pretty warm out there today, and not much fun at all. Yeah, well, apparently Dario's just calling back on the radio saying just can't see anything. Even at this speed, he's saying, even at pace car speed, he cannot see anything. I'm not surprised. The rain's so heavy and the light has dropped so much that, well, just have to see what happens.
Yeah, I think if this rain continues like this for another 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, I think the officials really are going to have no option but to bring out the red flag. It is still raining awfully heavily, and there's a lot of water here on the front straight in front of us. And earlier on, before the start of the race, this wasn't nearly as bad as some of the other parts on the racetrack.
No, that's right. Absolutely just awful at the moment. Look at the leaders going round together there, Franchitti and Zanardi. You can just see how heavy that rain is. Leader has been Franchitti all the way through this race. Average speed to 78 miles an hour thanks to the conditions. 5 caution periods over 19 laps and 11 cars out of the race. But the question is, are these guys going to be able to have the chance to go racing again? I have to say, Franchitti's dominated this event from start to finish. Brilliant performance so far in changing conditions from wet to dry, back to wet again. He's had the measure of everybody, including the champion, Alex Zanardi. They really have worked hard, and Franchitti matching Paul Tracy. There was the incident between them, of course, as well, but he survived that, and so far leading it. And we're hearing that the white flag is going to be waved this time by. Looking down there, it is. The white flag is being waved. It is the last lap, and it will finish under caution here. The first race in Houston. the most dramatic race perhaps of the season so far, and it's going to be the third win of the year for Dario Franchitti, and boy, in what style he is going to come through to win this one.
Masterful drive this afternoon, tremendously difficult conditions. He had his teammate there all over him. His teammate actually hit him at one stage. That was Paul Tracy, of course, and he's withstood that. He's withstood the elements. He's driven magnificently.
Absolutely superb performance from Franchitti, and he had everything to keep Zanardi behind him. Zanardi had absolutely no answer for him today, and I think that's one of the rare occasions that we've seen Zanardi just beaten on the day. A very, very impressive performance. 13 podium finishes for Dario Franchitti in 17... No, in fact, for Alex Zanardi, that is. 13 podium finishes out of 17 races for Alex Zanardi, so another great performance from the Italian, but he didn't have the answer for Franchitti.
No, absolutely not. And Dario Franchitti, he's been so strong these last few races. He has amassed already the best qualifying record out of anybody in the entire series this year, and these last few races, he's doing the same in race conditions as well, and this will help his quest for second place in the championship standings. He will get 22 points this weekend for the pole, leading most laps and winning the race. Oh no, sorry, he didn't get the pole. That was Greg Moore, of course. But 21 points for Dario Franchitti this weekend, and that'll close him up to within a handful of points of Jimmy Vasser in the battle for second place in the PPG Cup standings. And that itself is worth $500,000.
Yeah, so this is another big win for Dario Franchitti. The third win of the season for him, and in the most trying conditions.
Yeah, just don't count your chickens just yet. A couple of corners to go here, actually just one corner to go here, but you know, it's so wet. The electrics of these cars can get damaged by the rain, but it doesn't seem so. Here comes the pace car. There is the checkered flags.
And it's Dario Franchitti who wins here in Houston. The first ever Texaco Grand Prix of Houston won by Franchitti, the third win of the season for him. Alex Zanardi finishes in second place. Tony Kanaan takes another podium in third. Let's hear from Barry Green.
They did win, and they have now won. Barry, a very emotional day for you, an altercation with Paul, but now a victory. What happened with Paul?
Well, I mean, it's great to see the two of them run up front like that. You know, Paul got together with Dario, unfortunately, but he was very fast, and it's just great to see him qualify up front. But look at Dario. The guy's fantastic, drove a great race, used his head in these conditions, tough conditions today, and both of them are doing a great job up to that point.
But I know emotionally, I know that this has been a very hard day for you because you and Paul have a special relationship, and something came unglued there.
Oh, we have a great relationship, and we'll continue that relationship, but any more words on that front, really, I've got to talk to Paul about. You know, he did a great job in qualifying this weekend and did a great job up to that point, and, you know, just great team effort this weekend in tough conditions.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So Franchitti the winner. Difficult time for Barry Green, with Paul Tracy taking himself out of this race. So easily could have taken them both out of the race. That's the thing, of course, that would have been on Barry's mind. The results: Franchitti from Zanardi, Kanaan third, Vasser fourth, Papis in a brilliant fifth place ahead of Adrian Fernandez in sixth position.
And there is Dario Franchitti, and on down the order behind Fernandez, Alonso Jr., Brian Herter, Richie Hearn and JJ Leto completing the top 10. The final point scorers, Scott Pruitt and Alex Barron again for the Eagle, the first point for the Eagle.
So it's been a remarkable first race here in Houston, and that's it for the coverage from Houston. A brilliant drive from Dario Franchitti to take his third win. Alex Zanardi, the champion, could not match him today. Tony Kanaan takes his second podium finish of the year. The next race will be in Surfers Paradise in Australia. I hope you can join us for that event. For Ben Edwards and Jeremy Shaw from Houston, bye-bye for now.